used for deep dives, maintains atmospheric pressure so decompression is not needed. We also have the research vessels, the Glomar Challenger drilling vessels that collected ocean floor samples used to prove seafloor spreading and plate tectonics. We also have the Droids Resolution, which is deep sea drilling vessel used today. So next the remotely vehicles drones of the sea, the Argo Jason system, a robot that explored the Titanic and helped him with the BP oil spill. We also have the underwater research vessels, the Bathysphere, the Bathyscaphe, and the remote sensing satellites, the CSAT, a series of satellites used to monitor the oceans and atmosphere, the GPS or the Global Positioning System, the trackers and tracers, the Tsunami and Hurricane Alert Systems, and the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. So next, we also have the Instrument Test Bed Facilities, the NIST facility for adsorbent characterization testing. FACT is a state-of-the-art laboratory recently commissioned with support from the U.S. So Department of Energy's Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy to address the challenges inherent to measuring gas and vapor absorption properties. We also have the Manufacturing Robotics Test Bed. So the NIST Manufacturing Robotic Test Bed consists of several labs located in three buildings on the main NIST campus. We also have this National Fire Research Laboratory. It is a facility that enables large-scale fire research in the areas of advanced firefighting, technologies, engineered fire safety, and etc. And the National Software Research Library. So it has a research computing environment containing over 40 million unique original files derived from over 20,000 software packages and 15,000 mobile apps. Also have the NIST Center for Automotive Lightweighting. So NCAL works to develop the measurement methodology, standards, and analysis necessary for the U.S. auto industry and base metal suppliers to transition to advanced lightweight materials for auto body components. We also have the NIST Industrial Wireless Systems Test Bed. This integrates existing and emerging wireless technologies with live physical systems found in factories of all types. Next is the NSOFT, operates in a new model of access for industrial research programs to federally funded research facilities. Then the Public Safety Communications Research. Uh, this provides research development, testing, and evaluation to foster nationwide communications interoperability. So next is the robotics test facility. Um, and lastly, the manufacturing system to extend existing production focused concepts by designing and architecting a test bed that enables smart manufacturing research and development across the product life cycle. So next is the LIDAR data processing technologies, the ATM system. So the ATM system or the airborne topographic mapper is a first return LIDAR system described by NASA. So ATM data post processing is performed using laser map developed by NASA and the USGS. So it is a graphical user interface program coded primarily in research systems interactive data language. Next is the sensory systems. The platforms refers to the structures or vehicles in which remote sensing instruments are mounted. We have the ground base. A wide variety of ground based platforms are used in remote sensing. Some of the more common ones are handheld devices, tripods, towers, and cranes. We also have the laboratory instruments. which is used exclusively for research, sensor calibration, and quality control. The field instruments used also for research purposes, and the permanent ground platforms, which is typically used for monitoring atmospheric phenomenon, although they are also used for long-term monitoring of terrestrial features. We also have the airborne. So airborne platforms were the sole non-ground-based platforms for early remote sensing work. So we have the low altitude aircraft, typically fly below altitudes where supplemental oxygen or pressurization are needed. The helicopters are usually for low altitude applications where the ability to hover is required. The mid altitude aircraft has an altitude limit under 30,000 feet above sea level. And the high altitude aircraft, which can fly altitudes greater than 30,000 feet above sea level. Next, next is the satellite. Uh, the satellite is the most stable platform. Aloft is a satellite which is spaceborne. So the first remote sensing satellite was launched in 1960 for meteorology purposes. So sun synchronous satellites have orbits with high inclination angles passing nearly over the poles. Next, so the last one is the data assimilation system for in situ and remotely sensed data. So the multiple methods proposed for data assimilation mainly fall into two categories, which is the variational methods and the sequential methods. So the variational methods is the optimization of the model states or the parameters, which is based on the minimization of a cost function, while sequential methods are the robust techniques for data assimilation in a broad range of applications. So for linear dynamics and measurement processes with the Kalman filter is an optimal sequential data assimilation algorithm. So that's all. Thank you.
Wait lang. Hala, hala, hala. For number one is numerical weather prediction, subseasonal climate prediction, and climate change prediction. Numerical weather prediction is using mathematical models of atmosphere and ocean to predict the weather based on occurring weather conditions. The seasonal climate prediction is talks about the weekly prediction of climate. Seasonal climate prediction talks about a month up to 7 month climate prediction. Example is La Nina and El Nino. The climate change prediction is the prediction of the possible change of climate of a certain time, month, or year that is going to be experienced. And then the second one is the quantitative precipitation forecast uses numerical weather prediction models in order to reduce the uncertainty. It also improves forecast skills and extend forecast lead times. Then number three is the high impact forecasting about how a certain high impact um, will affect the daily supplies that we need, like food, um, water supply,
On the
and
job.
infrastructure and public health risk. And then the fourth is the health, food security, and water sources. These are most often being affected when there is a high impact weather. And the fifth one is the data analysis and predictive modeling for flood monitoring and management. Philippines is vulnerable in climate when a number of cyclone is experienced. Flood has been a major challenge to us. But in monitoring the flood, the government is using a water level and water level and um and they manage by designing a flood discharge and by measuring 1 over 300 or 1 over 100 years probable floods. And then the sixth one is geophysics is a subject of natural science concerned with chemical processes and physical properties of Earth, and the geochemical or geochemistry, the science that use tools and and principles of chemistry to explain the mechanisms behind major geological systems. And geodetic is the science of accurately measuring and understanding the fundamental properties of the Earth. In simulation of geological hazard, the model utilizes a time history method to establish a complete early warning and monitoring system by learning geologic disaster data. And then for the last one is the potential large eruptions, earthquakes, possible tsunami and landslide. Monitors the movement of the plates or land or earth. They tend to notice large eruptions, possible large eruptions, earthquakes, possible tsunami, and landslides, since they have device that serves as their guide to know if there is any anomalies. And that's all. Thank you.
The next is the hazards, vulnerability, and risk assessment. So at first, let us define hazard. Hazard can be defined as a potential source of damage or harm to people and the environment. So the hazard assessment, there is geological and meteorological. So the geologic hazard assessment is a summary of the potential geologic hazards present at a site that may affect your project. A GHA or the Geologic Hazard Assessment may be required for any construction considered development for the Geologic Hazards Ordinance, which is located within any hazardous areas such as fault zone, landslide area, floodplains, floodways, and coastal high hazard areas. With Next is within any area identified by a member of environmental planning staff as potentially unstable or hazardous. On hand, where a site inspection reveals that more geologic evaluation or review is indicated to ensure public health and safety is maintained. So the example for this geologic hazard is the fault zones, liquefaction zones, coastal bluffs, or coastal beaches, or any areas subject to landslide or debris flows. Next, next. So the hydrometeorological hazards are the process or the phenomena of atmospheric, hydrological, or oceanic nature that may cause loss of life, injury, or other health impacts. Property damages, loss of livelihoods and services, social and economic disruptions, or even the environmental damages. So these are mga examples sa kanang warning. So pag magbaha